I would like to talk that, but before we delve into that, because that's a topic that if you go into it and it's hard to stop, just before we go there to contextualize, where did you do your yoga training? Because you mentioned India also. Was it
Yeah,
there?
for me, it started in Holland. There's so many yoga schools out there, but I just chose one that looked very traditional and but still complete. So I went to the Netherlands for 1 month, but it was an Indian man and I think she's Swiss, the woman, a couple running Arhanta, and they have an ashram. An ashram is a place where you do yoga. You could call it like a yoga center. They had one in Holland and one in India, but my first training was just in Holland,
Just
not
in
that
Holland.
from my home. But it was very intense because then I did another training not long ago in India, and that was much more Western than
Oh, so
the
you
one
did
that
go to India.
Yeah,
I knew you had to go there.
yeah. I did many trainings in the meantime, but yeah, I also went to India. Yeah,
How do you compare them? Like, is it the same in Europe as in India, or is it completely different? Like the mindset, the spirituality that you was referring to, the meaning of yoga besides just an exercise and as a mode of living almost.
You don't need to go to India to find that, because if I look to the organizations that I was with, I have to say that the one in the Netherlands was actually, how do you say, much more yoga than the one that I went to in India. And nothing against it, because I'm very grateful to Trimurti as well, but it was much more Western when I went to India, to that center. So if it's about the schools, I think it doesn't matter where the school is located. It's about the teachers that you get there, and the knowledge that's being presented, and then the lineage, and then many things I can talk about. And then if it's about India, going there and understanding where the culture comes from and where yoga is coming from, I do think that is important. But I was unlucky because I got there when the big pandemic started. So I didn't have the chance to travel there. Yeah, I got stuck.
Early 2020 then?
Yeah, 2020. And yeah.
It sucks.
So
but it was very recent, nevertheless. I thought this was deep in the past, many years ago, as you said, and that's distant past, but just it was almost just 2 years ago. Pretty recent.
Yeah, like 300 hours training, yeah, but that is like, yeah, in yoga you actually have only two kind of levels, if you would say it like that. Mm-hmm. You have a 200 hours training, and then you have 300 hours, and in total that makes like a 500 hours training. And I did want to gain experience before I went for that second level, and that's why it has been recently. But a lot of happens since then.
So what levels are there? You mentioned a few levels. Someone who wants to do a complete yoga training, what can he or she expect to go through then?
Easy. So you do 200 hours and then you do 300 hours. So in total, you become like a full 500 hours trainer.
500 hours. 500 hours, that's how many days? How many months? Just to put into perspective.
You can choose. Some schools do it over years. So if you do it every weekend or something, or some schools do it over a month. So you do 1 month of 200 hours and you do 1 month of 300 hours. That is very intense. That is
and those are like you do
those hours, they represent the amount of hours you get classes or practice or whatever. So you can imagine that 300 hours of classes in 1 month is a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot. So if a month has 40 days, that's like 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
How do you do 10 hours a day of exercise for
you
1 month straight?
In the morning and you go to bed at 9:30 in the evening.
Does those hours include like laying down, relaxing, just thinking?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, kind of. No, but the meditation is part of it, and then there's some. Yeah, it's definitely not only practice.
And then some people fall asleep and they're like meditating with their eyes closed. Wake up 5 hours later. Yeah, 5 hours of practice. Good.
Exactly.
Right. So
Yeah.
you do these 2 courses and then there's nothing more. You don't need any, there's no higher certification to pursue.
No, there is. So then it's the amount of hours that you've been teaching. So you become a 200-hour teacher plus teaching hours, or like I don't remember exactly how it's called, but like say I'm like, for example, a 500-hour teacher, plus I have passed the 200 hours of giving classes. So I'm like 500 plus 200 hours of teaching.
Do you personally count those hours that you teach?
No, but I do know I've passed the 200 hours, because one day I was a bit calculating where I am. But you can. So there's the International Yoga Alliance, and you can apply and give in all of the teaching hours and stuff that you've done. If you want all of the official cards and stuff, you can do that.
So, okay. So for people that are listening and might want to pursue these, where would you recommend them to go? Based on what you've seen, based on your experience in Europe, based on your experience in India? Like if you had to start over, where would be your first priority?
Good question. I get this question so many times. I will just send them your podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry. Not creative at all.
So if you start a training, if your first one, your 200 hours training, it doesn't, how would you say? I would say try to take something which is quite traditional. The course is intense. And for me, I think Hatha Yoga is a really good base to start with, because it is kind of the base of yoga. And it doesn't complicate things. Because if you would start, for example, for those that know all of the different styles, if you start with Vinyasa Yoga, which is quite fast and it's quite complex already in the sequencing, in preparing a class, I think it's good if you're passionate about it, but I do recommend something more foundation wise, and look for a course that provides you 3 meals a day, because you need them. It's not the time to go into a glancing or to lose weight or whatever you have in your mind. No, you need the energy, so look for enough food. Have a look if there's definitely anatomy in the course, anatomy, philosophy, and that these things need to be in there.
Philosophy. Yeah. How do philosophy and anatomy relate? I think I know what you can say, but
they don't relate. They don't relate. I mean, there are different models of the course. So you would have like the yoga practice, the asana practice, the postures, and you need the philosophy as well to understand what you started, and you need anatomy, the minimum of it, to prevent any injuries in your class and to understand how the human body works. So that's really important. Have a look at the curriculum and what's in there, and then of course have a look if the course has been recognized by Yoga Alliance. I
mean, if it's certificated or not?
Yeah, although I have my question marks around Yoga Alliance, definitely. But yeah, it is still the only organization that checks it out. So yeah, that's it. And then 300 hours. Then once you become a yoga teacher, I would definitely say wait at least 1 year, 2 years, teach, go out, teach, and then start your 300 hours. Because if you start your 300 hours, they will not teach you how to teach anymore. This goes really into refinement, and then you can choose something which interests you, the style that interests you. And you definitely need some experience before you go there, because then it becomes so interesting. Like for me, the 300 hours was more an exchange between all different teachers and what they've experienced and how they use certain tools, and then it's awesome. But to get the most out of it, go out, teach, and then do your second level.
It might seem intimidating. That's amazing, but it might seem intimidating for people. Okay, I'm going to start teach now. Do you need any infrastructure? Do you need anything besides your reel? Meaning, do you need to rent a space, rent a studio? Is it as simple as that? Just rent a studio, put some mattresses on the floor, and advertise? or is it more complex than this?
Challenging. Oh man, yeah, it's challenging because nowadays there's so many people out there, millions of
Competition,
people.
you mean?
Yeah, I would say if you're intimidated, for sure, start by just teaching your parents, your friends, and do it for free for them. We always got like the advice of like start with free classes when you for people that you don't know. It's not very respectful for the yoga teachers that are out there and that are trying to make out their living and that are that did choose to go and do all of these trainings and have the knowledge, and then this is a bit the devaluation that we get of yoga classes and yoga teachers. But definitely go teaching your parents, your family, your friends, whatever, so that you start to feel confident. See if you can use a local club or your local school. Buy a few mats if you know that this is what you're going to do. Any little investment is never lost, and then it grows by itself. And then if you believe in it and you feel comfortable in it, it comes by itself, and you will see where you need to go.